Welcome back to OpenLine, talking about the proposed gas compressor stations in Davidson County. I have with us Matt Arcaney with Keep Southeast Nashville Healthy, and Bill Robertson, Concerned Citizens for a Safe Environment. They have concerns about the Jolton area. We ask people from the industry to come on. They've sent some information, declined to come on, but appreciate the information. Let's go to Lucy. Hello, Lucy.
Hey, good evening, y'all.
Go right ahead, Lucy.
Well, I've got a couple things here. The first thing I want to say about benzene. Now, I might be wrong about this. You should check me out on my facts here, but during the whole 9/11 thing, they passed a bill on smallpox, and in that bill, they rushed it through Congress. They attached a little rider, and it says that you cannot sue the manufacturer of benzene, and the only place that I understand that it's made is in the state of Texas. And what benzene had to do with smallpox, people talked about at the time, but they let it go. But check me out. But right after that, fracking exploded, and benzene's the main chemical I understand that they use to ignite it when they go to frack the shell rock. So with that being said, here you said that for 20, this has like a 20-mile, 30-mile overspray range. Is that what y'all said?
Well, that's the government. That's what the government even says is the impact radius.
The way that the winds kind of go through this area, they kind of come out of the southwest, and it seems to me that the populations of Gallatin would be affected by that, and maybe Mount Juliet, where these two stations are. And the last thing is, I thought like I think it was National Geographic, it was around 2005, they did a big story on the cave system here from south central Kentucky to north central Alabama, and it's the largest cave system in the world. I'm wondering, we're back to Homeland Security here, these things are so huge that if they were a terrorist target, how large of an earthquake would they, stand to make, and what kind of impact would that have on this bowl that we live in here?
Let's talk about both those things: the earthquake threat and the terrorist threat. What about that? Do you know? Is that something that you've gotten into? Or?
It's not so much of an earthquake threat as it is an explosion threat, and in our case, in Cane Ridge, the pipeline that we're sitting on is really old. It's at least a few decades old, 50 years minimum. It's a really old pipeline, and they're pressurizing it to move the gas to the Gulf. So even aside from the terrorist threat, these things do explode because natural gas is a really volatile compound.
We've certainly seen there's some horrific examples.
There was one a couple weeks ago in Pennsylvania where there was a weak pipeline and it exploded, and they were in a very rural area, but it did take out a house nearby. And there are reports from people that live around these things that when these do explode, they've shattered car windows a mile away. I mean, it's a blast. It's not it's not just some flame shooting out of the ground. These things explode like a bomb.
Safety throughout earthquake or terrorists, and then he's bringing up the old pipes. What about your concerns there?
Well, the old pipes is a very good concern because the pipes in our area, we know actually the three pipelines that it connects to go right through my backyard, just 80 feet from my back door. Okay, so and the risk when the pipe is buried, there's a risk there, but it's a fairly low risk. When you bring the gas up to the surface to do the recompression, the compressor station, when you look at the probability, if you take the number of incidents per year and you take the number of compressor stations all across the country, the number I come up with, and this is just rough, don't want to quote it too hard, but it looks like it's approaching 1% chance that in any 1 year you'll have a significant incident. In other words, a fire or an explosion at a compressor station, which means over the 30-year lifetime of it, that's about a 25% chance that there's going to be an explosion next door to you, and that's not very comforting. And as I said, it's not a good thing if it's in a neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And the pipelines in our case were put in the late 50s and early 60s. They're cast iron pipe, welded. They're pipe that would not be used today for pipeline systems, and but they're not replacing it. They're using the exact same pipe, and they're putting, as obviously when you put a new compressor station on the high pressure side of that compressor station, those pipes are seeing pressures like they've never seen before because they've lived their entire lifetime halfway between the two compressor stations. So it's going to strain the system, and we're worried about. We had somebody from our group went and looked at the pipelines. That's another story I think has been done on the news, where he went and looked at the pipeline, found a lot of places where the pipeline was exposed. He used Google Earth to find it. Then he went down into the gullies around us, took pictures of it, and we're raising some issues with at the federal level. FERC does not care about the safety of the pipe. That is the Department of Transportation, and PHMSA, PHMSA, Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration. You get really good at acronyms in this thing.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. And so you had looked at areas, I was interested, you said this, where they have successfully fought these things. And it is a tall order.
Yeah.
What did they do in those areas, and do you think you'll be able to do that here? What are some of the things that were done, and either one of you can take this, things that were done in other areas that you hope you can do here that could realistically stop these things?
I think from my looking at what was done in other places, and we have a list of and there's fairly recent ones, the Palmetto pipeline in Georgia was mainly stopped because the court system there said that it's not in the public interest. It cut across a number of, most of the things that have been stopped are pipeline issues. Pipeline issues cut across many districts, and therefore at the state level there are many state representatives who are now concerned with it. The compressor station is a little bit different since it's it's a one-off. There's, but I think that's but the Northeast Direct one got canceled. Up in Kinder Morgan withdrew it because they said they couldn't find enough customers, but there was huge opposition in Massachusetts. And a lot of that was just the grassroots effort against it.
Was that a pipeline or was that a compressor station?
That was a pipeline. Compressor stations, it's harder to find the ones that we've seen where it was stopped. It wasn't stopped. The community and the pipeline company got together and agreed on an appropriate alternate site. And from Kinder Morgan's point of view, they have not talked to us. They haven't come on the show. I was on Morning Line a year ago. They wouldn't come on there. They have not been in contact with the community. They've not had a public hearing. I know the Cane Ridge folks did have a public hearing before they applied to FERC. So Columbia Gas has sort of been doing more outreach, and part of that I think is they didn't want another jolt. And,
well, we have a larger population they need to worry about too.
How was that? So they did have, I think there was video.
I actually found out about this station after that hearing, and it was because someone in our neighborhood posted it on the Facebook group, like, hey, do you know about this thing that's going in down the street? And started looking into it, and that's when I got pretty concerned.
Because in the material they provided, they say we're going to do regular outreach to the community and we're going to keep them informed, and they want to be good partners. Have you seen that?
Once again, I mean, regular is relative. I mean, once, as far as I know, they've done outreach, and it was they had a few of their employees in a church, I think, and were basically passing out their materials and had a lot of swag and things that they were giving to people to make them feel really good about the fact that they were going to be building one of these down the street. But yeah, I mean, once again, a lot of their verbiage is very relative, and it doesn't mean a whole lot.
Is there any support for it?
Support for it?
Yeah.
I mean, if there is any, it's coming from the pipeline and the pipeline company, and they're manufacturing it. Because, I mean, think about if anyone were to do any reading on this whatsoever, they would find that there are no upsides on a local level to this. And it's hard to find things that there are no upsides to. I guess the biggest upside is that it'll going to bring in, property tax revenue. But okay, we live in Nashville. We're one of the entertainment capitals on the eastern side of the United States. We bring in a ton of tax revenue. We don't need their couple $1 million a year that they may or may not bring in from using our land to basically pollute the city. So what needs to be realized, I guess, is that we can stop this. The city just needs to get behind the people, and the city needs to realize that there are thousands of people that this is going to be affected by. It's going to affect a lot of infrastructures in the city in a negative way, and this is a Nashville issue. They're using our city to pour their air pollution into so they can export oil or gas for their profit.
It seems like there's some business interests that support it. Tennessee Chamber of Commerce at least opposed this bill that was in the council last night. Tennessee Chamber of Commerce, National Federation of Independent Businesses, Kinder Morgan opposed it. So there's some business interests.
I think that, but I think, and I think, again, because Kinder Morgan, the big business players can influence those, and I think some of the, I think Councilman Bedney took their concerns. I mean, he didn't just say, well, you're against it and that's it. He took some of their concerns and modified the bill to address some of their concerns. They were concerned about that it might impact other businesses adversely. It was not so much about the gas compressor station. I don't think...
Yeah, their opposition wasn't in support of the compressor station as much as it was a concern that a tighter air quality in Nashville would restrict business growth. But the other thing, the counter to that is by building one of these, it's going to raise the pollution in our air to such an extent that other businesses won't be able to come in anyway. So it's either you're blocked because our air is so bad here, or we just have tighter regulations and you need to go through more authorization in order to bring your business here.
See, if it's a business that pollutes, but it brings jobs, then you accept a certain level of that pollution burden because it's creating jobs, it's generating money for the, it's helping the economy of the city.
Right.
These things do nothing for the city, and they don't have to be. They don't do nothing for the county, so they really don't need to be here.
Is there some tax revenue? Is there some generated tax revenue they bring in?
This is an interesting question because we've had a real hard time getting one of the members of our group wrote to the at the State House, got the people to look at it, and they said that it generates really no tax revenue above the sort of the property tax. I think at the beginning there's a payout because they do some of the construction and the improvement. There's a certain payout, but I think as an ongoing enterprise, I don't think it generates very much tax money. But we can't really we haven't got a good answer from anybody on that, except at the state level. They said, as far as we're concerned, it's not going to generate any significant tax revenue.
All right, so we are going to take a break. If you want to call, there is the number right there at the bottom of the screen, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Call in with your question or comment. Be back right after this.